Welcome back, baby. Everybody, to Outta Pocket Podcasts. As we've mentioned in previous episodes, obviously we don't want to just keep having influencers on and you know, these social media figures.
Hey, we love influencers.
We love them. You know, don't get us wrong. It's a very interesting combo every time. But we thought, you know, we wanted to bring somebody a little bit deeper from a different profession on. And
this is something we've talked about doing for a while.
Yeah.
Just like someone who's a professional at what they do. So this is...
Yeah, he's a professional influencer.
This is a super exciting episode for us. Sammy, you want to tell about how we know who this person is, what they do?
So this is Dr. Galanis. He's a plastic surgeon. We met through my sister because you were my sister's boss.
Yeah.
When was that? It was like 2018?
No, it was before that. I think it was maybe like 2017.
Okay.
And I actually remember meeting you because I worked with... So Emily started working for me. I actually met Annie and Emily together.
Really?
And then it was sometime after that you like were in a car, stopped by the office and popped in, and she was like, "Oh, it's my brother Sammy."
I probably got Botox or something.
Yeah. I don't think you've taken the plunge yet, but
no, I think I did get once.
You did?
Yeah, I got because I always squint during the summer, like right here.
Yeah.
And I hated it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, you hated the...
I hated the Botox, and it hurt. You were like, it's painless, and it fucking hurt.
Like
bad.
with a syringe in your face?
Yeah.
It does not hurt that much.
I saw you on your story, like, doing it to yourself.
Yeah, I used to do it to myself.
That's wild.
I mean, I have a nurse injector now. She does it, but it does not hurt that much.
I mean, it didn't feel great.
But like, does it go away? Like, what's the story with Botox? Do you have to keep it up? What's like the...
I mean, we can kind of dive into that because that's the thing you hear most commonly. But so Botox it's first of all, it's for the wrinkles you get in your face for when you move your face, right?
Okay.
So like you raise your eyebrows, you squint. When you're younger, you can make those expressions. You don't see the lines, but as time goes on, those lines that you make stay permanently. Like even when you're not making an expression.
Oh yeah.
Like if you look at Mark Wahlberg, he's got like these deep lines right here in his face, just at rest, because he's doing this his whole life.
Right? And Boston Scowl, you know?
Right. So what Botox does is it's a paralytic. It paralyzes muscles. It's a toxin. It paralyzes muscles for a few months. But if you do it strategically in a certain way, you can still express yourself, but it softens those lines. So it's actually ideal for prevention. So the best people for it are people who are younger. And, if they start doing it regularly, they'll still be able to express themselves, but it holds off those lines from forming. Because once they form, it still can help. It'll soften them, but the die is cast. They're going to be there, but it'll soften them a little bit.
Wow, that's interesting.
And the last thing I'll say about it, which is interesting, they did a study once. They had two twins. These two women who were biological twins. And one did Botox, one didn't. And they showed a picture of them at like when they were 35 or 40. And it's a clear difference.
Really?
I mean, it does work. It's a great prevention. I think the misconception about it is that it's unnatural. It makes people look frozen or weird. No, if you do it right, it doesn't. You won't know someone's had it if it's done right.
Okay.
But it's a good sort of prevention.
It's when you overdo it, that's when it starts becoming apparent.
Yeah, when people just are completely frozen, can't move their face.
Yeah. Because that's kind of what I think about when I think of Botox. Like, a
lot of people do.
The older celebs that just have absolute, just like plastic looking faces, and I'm like, that's obviously a case of just mismanaging it.
Well, those are the tricky ones because I've had actresses and people who come in where part of their job is expression. So you have to be really careful with that because it can impact their ability to do their job. Yeah. So there's a balance.
I mean, it was definitely weird, like, because it was when I got it, it was like 3 months of like I can't move down like this.
You couldn't move it down, or just wouldn't appear to.
I don't have like the 11 lines. Like I have like a fucking unibrow essentially when I fucking squint.
The 11 is the two right here.
Yeah,
like horizontal.
So there's a horizontal one because there's a muscle that comes straight down called the procerus. So that's one muscle, and then there's these muscle called the corrugators. Those give the 11 lines. So there's one that comes across the lines. There's one that go here. The lines form perpendicular to the way the muscle moves.
Okay.
So like there's a muscle that goes up and down on her forehead. So when you raise your eyebrows, that's what gives you these. So you see how the lines are perpendicular to the way the muscle moves. Little anatomy lesson for us.
You're smart.
Wow. Is there an age where it's like you're too young to get Botox, or you could give an infant Botox?
I mean, it's a common question. I definitely wouldn't give an infant anything, but I think that you can.
I mean,
you'll see patients in their 20s.
Okay.
I mean, there are patients in their 20s who will do it, and if it, that's fine. There's not like a specific age you should or shouldn't do it.
Okay.
There's definitely an age where it's probably too late.
Like the lines are already formed.
Yeah, well, a joke I tell people, not a joke, but so I was in practice in Chicago before being in Beverly Hills. And the biggest difference I would tell people, the difference between Chicago and Beverly Hills is in Beverly Hills, you have a 21-year-old coming in saying, I want Botox. And in Chicago, you have a 50-year-old coming in saying, I'm thinking about doing Botox. You know, that's like the difference between LA and Chicago right there. But so, because you get to a point where it's not gonna do much for you. It's at that point, it's probably too
done.
late.
The damage is done.
Like my mom is like in her 80s, and she's like, "Can I get Botox?" I'm like, "Yeah, if you want me to make your face look fucked up, sure."
Just pointless.
Yeah, it's like it's not gonna help you. But
dude, I'm curious as to what is the most common plastic surgery men get.
so for men, the two most common are rhinoplasty and liposuction.
So nose
Rhino
job.
being the nose. That's the nose.
Yeah.
Right?
So nose jobs, lipo, probably the two most common for men.
Where is the most common place that men get lipo?
Like
Stomach?
it's their body. So it's like their flanks.
Oh, you
the
do it
waist.
everywhere?
Yeah, you can do it. You can do lipo, chin, arms, shoulders, back, abdomen, waist, legs, even. So you can do it all over the place. But the most common place is the torso.
Yeah, we were thinking actually, us as a crew were talking about Johnson kind of wants abs, so maybe you could contour.
Bro, I'm chiseled. Come on.
You could contour.
I'm
a
not
little bit.
Gandalf. I can't make everything happen.
Is there any like
I'm just getting cut up out here.
I
Wow.
can't imagine. Obviously, like you do this. This is your profession. But like, do you ever get like wheezy doing that stuff?
No, I mean there's one time.
Some of the shit is
It-
fucking gnarly.
I know.
Yeah,
It's
Well, you know
like
what's funny
pizza.
is
It's like, what the
You're
fuck
just
is
slicing
that?
open a human like their food.
There's one time I got nauseous, and I was in med school. So you have anatomy class in med
makes me
school,
dizzy.
and it's in 3 sections. Like you have cadavers that you work on.
Yeah.
And they do a body
Was
section.
cadaver? Will you define that for me?
It's a dead
Dead
body.
body.
So
Literally.
you're literally working
Someone
on
who
a dead
just-
body. Someone who
sold
donated.
their-
They donated their body to science, and you dissect them, and you're studying their body.
Oh my god!
everywhere.
I've
The
got, like,
fact you've
black
done this
hole.
is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Holy
and so,
shit.
but they have 3 sections. There's a head and neck one, there's a body one, and there's an extremities one. And I remember the first section was body, got through that fine. And then after the first exam, I went out with my med school buddies, and we got wasted. I mean, it was our first night out after a big exam, and so I came in the next day. I mean, I was 25 or whatever. I was hungover as hell. I was wearing sunglasses in the classroom, and the teacher's like, I mean, you're not fooling anyone. Like, I was trying to sleep with my sunglasses on. Like, I wasn't fooling anyone. And then we went down to the anatomy lab for head and neck, and when they pulled the thing off of the face, it was the
What
only
does that
time-
mean?
Like,
What
we
do you
went,
mean?
Like after you
Oh,
have
like
classroom first, then you
I
go
think
down. It's like the tank room where there's these tanks, and they bring the body up, and the face had been covered the whole time. So until you start doing face, and they pulled it off, and that was the first time I was like, I got to step back for a second. That's the only time I've ever gotten queasy, because I think that honestly, you have to understand when you're in an operating room, you're doing something. First of all, a lot of times things are toweled off. You're just working on a body part. You're not seeing like the person in their totality.
Okay.
You're not looking
Gotcha.
at their face. You're not seeing, you're just kind of
Sectional-
focusing this part.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I think about is I see what I'm looking at or what I'm thinking in my head is the next step or the end. I know where it's going to end. I'm not focused on the gore in front of me. I know where it's going to go. But by this time, I've done thousands of surgeries, so everyone gets desensitized.
Yeah,
no matter
true.
what you're exposed to, you see it enough. You're not, it's not that. When you first start, you're excited about it, and then it becomes routine, and then it becomes more like the art, and you're working on. There's a purpose to what you're doing, and you're trying to get to an end goal. So it's not the same. It's not gory to you.
Do you find that like your surgeries have progressed and like you're giving better rhinoplasties than you were at the beginning?
100%. That's one of the weirdest, things you have to recognize in what I do is that, acknowledging that, 8 years ago that patient didn't get the best version of me, and 8 years from now they're going to get a better version of me. That's how it works, but that's how it should work in anything that you do, right?
Absolutely.
So if you make music, I'm sure music you made 10 years ago is. You may
It's
look
night
at it
and
now
day,
and be like
yeah.
it's crap, and now
For
you're
sure.
like, God, I can't believe I did that. But that's part of the process.
Right.
But I don't. It's not like I think I did shitty work. today.
Right,
Of course.
It's just different. And practices evolve. You find, especially in Beverly Hills, you can't throw a rock outside without hitting like 5 plastic surgeons where I work. They're everywhere, and so you have to be really good in certain areas. You can't be a master of all trades because there's someone who does 1,000 of one thing. So you have to kind of hone in on a couple things that you like doing that you're really good at if you want to succeed. And so that's just how it works. You can't kind of do a little bit of everything anymore.
What
What would you say
what
that
are
is
those
for you? Yeah.
So what I do, most of my patients are female, most are moms, but most of what I do is breast and body surgery. That's what people come to see me for. So, and I one of the things that I did differently than what a lot of people do, I spent time down in Colombia in South America with a guy who kind of pioneered a new way of doing liposuction. Because lipo in the U.S. is stigmatized. People see it as, oh, you're lazy or you're fat if you get lipo.
Yeah.
And a lot of the work is shit, honestly. And I'm not pointing the finger at other people. I'd say that my old, when I used to think, because the training in the U.S. for lipo is not very good. It's the same dogma they've been using for 30 years. They're just behind. And there are other parts of the world that have really pioneered certain areas in plastic surgery. And body contouring, South America is way ahead of where the U.S. is.
Really?
So I went down there, and it completely changed how I do those cases. So I do them in a way that not a lot of people know how to do or do. And so that's a lot of what I do is that kind of work, is people who are just transforming their bodies, whether it's a mom who had kids. But I young people too, like girls in their, and men in their 20s who are just trying to.
Is that the high def lipo that I was reading about on your page?
Yeah.
So explain that versus like a normal liposuction.
So, traditional lipo in the U.S. was just about kind of debulking. It's just like making people smaller.
Okay.
If you really look at body surgery, what the eye sees. So there are things that the eye sees when we look at the human body that you don't realize. For example, proportion. Like, when you look at a waist on a woman and you're like, oh, she's got a small waist. That you're not actually looking at the waist. You're looking at the ratio of her waist to her hips.
For sure, yeah. Because
if you just look at her waist, you don't know how big or small it is. You're looking at the ratio.
If she was a 7-footer, she could have like a massive waist. But in proportion,
No, it's true. And I mean, I've had some patients who I knew who were famous who were coming in. And I'm like, oh, she's got a tiny waist based on what I've seen on TV or whatever. And then I measure her and she doesn't. It's because her hips are bigger.
Absolutely, yeah.
So one of them is proportion. The other thing is contour. So the human body is three-dimensional. The abdomen is not flat. People say they want a flat stomach. No, you don't. A flat stomach looks weird. It looks like a Madame Tussauds wax figure. Like that's not what a stomach looks like. So the way this guy kind of redid lipo or redefined it is he paid attention to contours that we naturally have, which is not something that was really taught. And areas where you should be a little bit more aggressive to enhance those contours. So for men or women, it's done differently. But basically, I tell people I have the shittiest form of marketing because I'm trying to make it look like I was never there. And make it look like you did 8 weeks at Barry's boot camp or whatever. Yeah. And that's how you came out. Because that's how it's designed to work.
More athletic looking than a typical lipo.
Yeah, natural contours. And it has to fit their body. If it's someone who's kind of maybe a little bit bigger, you soften a little bit. You don't want to make a Ninja Turtle, where they got like some cutout thing and everything else looks whatever. So you have to kind of keep it in harmony with the rest of the body.
That's crazy. It's almost like an art form 100%.
It is. Absolutely. And it makes it much more fun. I used to hate doing lipo. Now I love it because it is more of an art form. And it's more exciting, and you see things on the table. You can see the difference. Like I take them into the operating room before I start. I take a picture, I take a video, and then right after I take a picture and video. So it's like same lighting, same position, and you can see the difference right away, and that's fun. So.
Is that something that after the surgery you say you see the difference right away, but does it progressively get better too? Like
it gets worse and then it gets better. So then they get swollen.
Oh right.
And then they get swelling, and it's kind of messy. And I tell patients this is kind of funny. So last year when quarantine happened and we had to be more like selective about when we saw patients, I had to do a lot of cyber follow-ups. Mm-hmm. I noticed that, and I tell all my patients this, that at 2 weeks they'd send in their follow-up pictures and they'd be standing in front of a mirror and kind of be like this, the picture. And then at 6 weeks, here, hold this a second. At 6 weeks, it'd be like hand on the hip, like in the mirror, sending this follow-up.
Looking sexy.
Yeah, like really kind of feeling himself. And that's kind of the natural progression because the swelling tends to, it's different for everyone, but sometimes as early as 6 to 8 weeks, the swelling is going down and some of the things are starting to pop out. But then things like skin retraction take a while. This is like, it's, the tortoise or the hare, this is definitely a tortoise situation. It takes months, 6, 12 months to get to your final place. And you can screw it up too. If you go live it in an Outburger,
right, that's what I was going to ask.
You'll fuck up your results. I mean, it's not going to, you're not, it doesn't give you license to be an idiot
just
with your quality of life. Yeah.
And you can't just keep doing this over and over. Like, okay, I'm going to put the weight back on and get, like, that would take a massive toll on your body.
You shouldn't. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the best patients, look, these are expensive surgeries. They invest a lot in it. And most of the time they're, they've invested this much. They want to carry it through.
So this should be like the catalyst to change your ways almost.
And it works. It really does. And I've had patients even who are maybe a little bit overweight who do this. And I see them at 3 months, they look great. And 6 months, I'm like, wow, because that's them. When they've made a huge stride from 3 to 6 months, that's them putting in the work. And that's fun for me because, I'm not trying to give people a shortcut. I want people to live healthily. And so it's fun to kind of have something that works in unison, in concert with the healthy
You're the
lifestyle.
jump starter, essentially.
Yeah, or just kind of, as long as they maintain it, they'll have it for a long, long time.
What's the most amount of fat you can pull out of somebody?
So there's actually a law in California. It's 5 liters. And it's kind of it's sort of an arbitrary amount because the reality of it is, it really depends on how big you are. I mean, the reason is if you take too much out, what happens is, so I'm gonna talk nerdy to you for a second.
Yeah, we like.
You guys know what? Like when you hurt your knee, you know why your knee swells up?
Because blood's going to it.
Okay, but how does the blood get there?
Via your heart.
I'm quizzing you right now. No. So you're kind of right. But so what happens is when your body senses injury, blood vessels, which are normally like they have walls, they become leaky because your body senses there's an injury in that area, and the blood becomes leaky, and because all the things that heal wounds are circulating in your bloodstream, they're not just hanging out. So when your body senses an injury, the blood vessels get leaky and all these things come out of your blood to that area. That's what swelling is. You have leaky blood vessels. And so that's how, I mean, that's what it is.
Leaky.
But it's true. Like that's what swelling is.
Yeah.
It's your body's way of getting the necessary things to that area. So, swelling is a natural part of healing. I don't know, where did I start with this? What was the question?
Oh,
it was
how much?
How much? Okay. So the problem is if you start pulling a lot of fluid, a lot out, there's too much shift outside of your bloodstream and your blood pressure will start to drop. Like if there's damage everywhere and there's a lot of this space now and there's all this leakage, there's too much fluid shift and it becomes unsafe. So in the outpatient setting, you can't do that. It becomes, it's dangerous. So that's why that 5 liters, but 5 liters is a lot.
How much is that?
Is that like more than a gallon of milk?
We'll take like a 2 liter bottle of soda. Take
like
2 liters a gallon.
pizza
I
thing,
think 2 liters is a
So
gallon.
it's two
like
2 liter
5.
bottles and then some.
What is fat? Like what's it? I mean, I've seen
It's
it. Like
it's a living cell.
disgusting.
It's a living cell. It's a necessary part of life. You can't
Yeah.
live without it. It stores energy. We have a set number of fat cells, and they can grow and get smaller, get bigger, depending on how you eat. So you have a set number of fat cells. If you
Do
slim
we all
down,
have the same or it's all different?
no, I mean whatever
Similar?
you have.
Okay.
When you do lipo, I permanently remove some of them. Now the ones that are still there can get bigger, but you have less. So if you put on weight wherever I did lipo, you're not going to put it on as aggressively there, but you still can. So
Crazy.
fat cells just can grow. They get bigger or smaller depending, on genetics, how you're eating, stuff like that.
Interesting.
I'm curious as to how much plastic surgery has changed since you started as to now, like the practice of it,
Yeah.
and with technology and everything.
So it's a good question. It's something that's always changing. I think that the move in plastic surgery in the last 10 years, I'd say there's a push to keep people out of the operating room, like building on non-surgical technologies, things that you can just go to an office and get strapped to you, hit a
Sensors
button.
and-
Yeah, just like to try to melt fat or whatever.
For sure, yeah, okay.
And so the non-surgical technologies, or even technologies you use in an operating room, but that might allow you to not have to make an incision. So that's where the push is. We haven't gotten there yet where we've replaced certain surgeries with devices, but I mean, there's been some headway. So that's kind of where things have, I think, changed the most.
Yeah.
A lot of the techniques haven't changed that much.
Those fat burner things that like aren't invasive. Does that work for people?
What I tell people is, you better be okay with spending money and not seeing anything, because there's a good chance it's going to happen.
Okay.
You might have a benefit, but those are great for people who are like, I can't have downtime. I don't want to have surgery. I'm scared of an operating room. I'm willing to spend money and see modest, or if there's no result, I'll live with it. I won't get mad. I'm not as a surgeon, I'm not a big fan of them because it's like it's taking the power out of my hands to like affect change. But if people are okay with that, like I have a device in my office, and I tell them that I don't bullshit. I'm not a snake oil salesman. I'm just like, no, this is as good as we have out of an operating room, but it may not be that overwhelming for you.
Okay, I'm curious because this is extremely interesting for me already. But I'm like wondering, like, where are you from? Where were you born?
I grew up in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
So I'm a Midwestern kid.
Wow,
Yeah. So I grew up in
okay.
Wisconsin, and then I lived on the East Coast for 7 years. I did my residency at Johns Hopkins, which is in Baltimore, but I lived in New York City for 2 years. I did research at Memorial Sloan Kettering, I lived in New York for 2 years. The research thing was...
And John
excuse to
Hopkins
live
is
here.
like top of the top, right?
I mean,
Like,
whatever.
He's kind of smart.
There's a lot of idiots there, too. There's idiots at every...
Okay,
There's a
did
joke. But then I went to... What brought me to LA was I went to UCLA for plastics. And so that's where I did my plastics training. And then...
did you know you wanted to do plastics when you first went to medical school?
No,
How did that journey take place?
when I was at Hopkins, I thought I wanted to be a surgical oncologist, a cancer surgeon. And then over the years of doing that, I enjoyed it. I love general surgery, but it's a really brutal lifestyle. And I realized that I liked putting things together more than I liked taking them out. And also plastics there's a lot of reasons to be interested in plastics. The practical reason is I can be a business owner. I don't have to deal with insurance. Insurance companies are nightmares. It's not just for patients, for doctors too. We hate them.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I don't have to deal with that shit, and I can own a business and do it the way I want, which is great.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I can operate all over the body. There's an artistry to it. I don't hide. We have this expression in plastic surgery. We don't hide our work. In other words, when I was in general surgery, you do a liver surgery or something, the stuff you do is hidden. You close an incision. You
have
can't
a
see
walking
what's done.
showcase of everybody you worked
whereas
on.
it's like when you do plastics, it's like it's in full display. So it requires another level of sort of precision, and it's a challenge certainly. And the other thing is you're taking healthy people to an operating room, which is really messed up if you think about it.
For sure, yeah.
Like when I did reconstruction, that was different. But in general surgery, they're coming to you because they're broken, they need to be fixed.
Right.
No one I take to an operating room is broken. They're fine. So there's
like
like an added
personal
level of
enhancement, yeah.
there's an added level of like
So you don't do plastic surgery on like people that have had like injuries?
I used to. So I did my first 3 years. I did mostly reconstruction, probably 85%.
Is that the most popular like plastic surgery in general? Or
I don't even know what the breakdown of that would be now. I mean, I think most people, yeah. But I mean, there's a tons of cosmetic surgeons. The thing is, in cosmetic surgery, there are non-plastic. In the U.S., there's non-plastics. There's dentists out there doing cosmetic surgery. It's crazy. Yeah. But among plastics trained people, yeah, I mean, there's a lot who are just doing recon or just doing a little bit of cosmetic. I mean, I'm in LA. It's a different market than if I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So
trained versus untrained. I was reading some stories about like how a lot of people will get botched like BBLs or so they'll go to like some shady character who will be taking plastic from like a hardware store, let's say, and putting it in them when typically you're supposed to be taking fat from other parts of your body, right?
Yeah. So
from what I've heard.
Well, there's different ways, right? 'Cause you can add, like you can do
silicone for
ass.
sure. But
Yeah. Well,
like,
silicone you can't. Like that's dangerous. Like that's definitely not.
Oh, is that out of the play?
Do
at
not
this
inject silicone. Like that creates problems, and it's a nightmare to fix.
So inject silicone versus like
fat. Like the most common way to augment the butt is they take fat from one area and put it there.
Okay.
There's also implants that can be used. Now on your thing about botch surgery, this is what I would tell you, because first of all, if any surgeon out there tells you they've never had an unhappy patient, they're either not operating enough or they're lying, because that always happens. And what I tell my patients is, plastic surgery is not, when you buy a television, you know exactly what you're getting with a television. You know the size of the TV, the color, you know what the features on the remote. You know exactly what you're getting.
All the specs, yeah.
When you buy plastic surgery, you don't. And so what I tell people is when you're paying for plastic surgery, you're paying for the probability of a result. You can go to the Dominican Republic and pay pennies on the dollar, and you might have a good result, but maybe your probability is 50%.
Okay, gotcha, yeah.
Or you can go to someone who costs a lot, who does a lot of something. Your probability is still not 100, but maybe it's 90%. So that's what you're paying for, and you have to accept that risk. It comes with it. Now, there are people out there that have no business doing what they're doing. Like you said, there are some people out there running chop shops or doing it not with a good standard of care. That's a different story. But, the average person isn't that informed, and there are a lot of price shoppers out there. And the way I know them is I'll get DMs, and it's someone who's not following the account. I don't know. I have no interaction with them whatsoever, and all they're saying is how much you charge for this.
Because they're comparing it probably to
we don't even answer those. Like, just go. That's someone who's going to go to the cheapest one. And that's fine. That's your choice, but that's the risk you take.
Quality is important, though. This is your body, you know? Like
you'd think.
Yeah.
But listen, I understand price of consideration. Some of these get really expensive. I mean, when you're talking about a $30,000, $40,000 surgery, I understand. It's a lot of money to spend for something that's not guaranteed. So it's not like I dismiss people. Like, you have to consider cost. It's part of the equation.
But it is selective,
Yeah, so but when you lead the conversation with that, you're missing the boat. That shouldn't be the first question.
Right.
That's not how you should first stratify your options. That should be down the road.
No, definitely.
What is the most expensive surgery?
Well, it's not that it's what's the most expensive. It's a given surgeon. So, for example, a facelift with one surgeon might be $15,000. With another surgeon, maybe $150,000. So it's not that the surgery itself, it's what the surgeon is charging for it.
Okay.
So what you're paying for is not just the procedure, but you're paying for the expertise, the experience, the demand of the given surgeon. So, there are some surgeries that literally are six figures. People are paying,
That's
six
wild.
figures.
Is there a favorite surgery like that you like to do?
I mean, I like doing the things that I've kind of honed in on.
Yeah.
But I still I did a facelift last week and I enjoyed doing it. It's not like because I don't do them as often, I don't enjoy it.
How do you do a facelift?
So a facelift is,
crazy.
facelift, breast lift, tummy tuck, all those is you have extra skin to an extent. Like you're getting rid of extra skin. So for a facelift, you make incisions that are hidden around the ear.
Behind the ear?
Yeah, they're in front and behind the ear, but they heal to the point they're pretty much concealed. And you tighten the skin, you take out extra skin. There's muscle underneath here, and you tighten that muscle too. If you just pull the skin, which is what they did when they first did facelifts, it doesn't last. Because the skin will just relax, and 2 years will be the same. So you got to you have to tighten the muscle that's underneath as well, and in the neck. And it'll make you 10 years younger. But then you start aging again, so people can redo a facelift at 8, 9, 10 years. Keep doing it to sort of maintain their youth. But yeah, that's how it's done.
You mentioned that every plastic surgeon who says they've never had an unhappy patient is either lying or that's just not the case. Hasn't had enough patients. One of the two. Was there ever somebody in your early days where you were like, damn, this isn't going the way I expected it to go, and midway through the procedure?
It's never happened in the operating room, but. So a couple things. First, it starts before you get in the operating room. It's managing expectations. And this is something you learn, I think, over time. And I didn't really appreciate this early in my career. Sometimes a case is going to be hard and it's just, we're not going to hit a home run on this. But patients these days, especially with social media, they come in with freaking pictures of Emily Ratajkowski, and you're like, yeah, make me this, and you're like,
let's relax,
genetics. Yeah, and so it's like, so you have to. So it starts before that in managing someone's expectations. Say, listen, we're not going to be able to do that. Let's be real about what's attainable here. And then I don't think it's ever happened in the operating room. We're like, oh, shit, I really screwed this person. That's never happened. But I mean, you'll see people in recovery. Sometimes it's just the way they heal. There's so many factors where it just doesn't go the way you want it to go, or it's not the outcome you're looking for. And it's not like it just happens in your early days. It happens later too. And it's a stressful part of the job. And it's because I love my job. I love my patients. That's what makes it worthwhile. And you want them to be happy.
Of course.
And when they're not, that weighs on you. I mean, that shit keeps you up at night. I mean, it really does. I mean, you can have 100 happy patients, and that one is just like, God.
Word of mouth is like probably one of the most important forms of marketing in this career. Yeah? Like just people talking to people like, hey, this dude did an amazing job if you want to get something similar done.
Right. Yeah, look at me.
Yeah.
Look at me. But walking billboard.
But for interesting thing about that, for what I do, like I've had famous patients. I've had actresses, but no one talks about what I do.
Right.
If I was a dermatologist or a dentist, they're taking pictures with their celebrity clients all the time.
Yeah.
Because they're like, yeah, go to the dentist. Great.
Yeah, I don't want to keep that on the hush.
Yeah, I don't have that luxury. And to be honest, I don't like doing celebrity patients because they're quite frankly, they're more high maintenance, generally speaking. Yeah. I mean, some of them are very nice. But
higher expectations?
They're more high maintenance. They're higher expectations. There's a greater stress level to it. Because,
the pressure's so high.
Yeah, it's like
it's public figure.
You could ruin their quote unquote ruin their career, things like that. So it's a little bit different, and you get none of the marketing bonus for it. So it's kind of like it's not really that
interesting.
Because you're not like one of those dentists who like they'll be giving people free like dentists. I see a lot of dentists like. In exchange for promo on your socials, like
but there are some surgeons who do that, and that's fine. I mean, because there have been some celebrities who are open about their surgery, and that's great. It's their choice. The ones for the stuff I do, most of them are not, and that's okay. I'm not saying they should be open about it.
Of course,
it's fine.
It's personal preference.
But it's just like it can be I mean, I've had patients who like they call ahead, they like take over all the elevators because they don't want anyone seeing them. They have their security down in the park. It's just ridiculous. I'm like, I want to be like, no one cares.
Exactly.
What's the fucking weirdest thing somebody's asked? Like, is there anything
you've turned down?
Oh yeah, I turn down stuff all the time, but I mean, not as often. I shouldn't say all the time, but I had a woman come in and ask for fillers for her vagina.
Make her pussy fatter.
Like lips for her lip, lip fillers for her lips.
I guess you're right. It was lip filler, and I'm like,
my god.
I'm like, that is so far off of the.
Did you understand why? Did she have like very thin?
No,
very thin.
No.
Let me take a look.
He
didn't inquire.
No, it did not get to that. I just kind of stopped the conversation before it happened, but. The times I say no, that I tell people there's three categories. One is it's not safe. One is that the timing isn't right. Maybe they're losing weight. Maybe they're about to get pregnant. And the third is, and this is my diplomatic way of saying it, is I don't think I can meet your expectations. So those are the three times I'll say no. And patients are actually pretty understanding because the thing I'll follow it up with is I don't want to steal your money. I mean, I could do it.
Totally.
I'll take your check, but you're not gonna be happy.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and they like that. They're like, oh yeah, you're honest. And I am being honest. I don't want to. It doesn't do me any favors to take someone's money and
to be dishonest. And I mean that
have an unhappy
your reputation carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So it's like you gotta. You got to pick and choose your battles for sure.
Pretty much.
You were looking to make your dick longer?
No, that was you, was it not?
Sammy, I thought you were on the schedule for Tuesday.
No. fuck.
Have you ever done one of those procedures? Like,
is that a thing? Wait, that's a thing?
So when I was in Chicago, I was part of a practice. One of the largest gender confirmation surgeries practices in the country. In fact, I was part of the surgery that was the first Medicare-funded sex change operation.
Wow, okay.
So we did both male to female and female to male.
I have so many questions about that.
That's crazy. Wow.
It is pretty wild. I mean, it's
Have you done one? Sorry, I kind of just...
I was part of those surgeries. I would assist on those. They're big surgeries. Some of them take 12, 14 hours. They're long cases.
Holy shit.
Like especially the female to male where you have to,
create.
Do you create a cock or do you get one from like...
No, you make it. So you...
Out of what?
Yeah. No, you actually build
I need to break down.
Can they like design their cock? Like
I want
so
this
it's funny.
cock.
You do like you will do like I remember having this conversation where it's like you kind of there's studies that show what the average size is based on different gender groups.
This is great.
I'm sorry, Sammy, yours is on the smaller side.
Didn't make the cut. It's in the low percentile.
I swear I would be a good model.
But it's so you would try to kind of adhere to what those norms were. But I mean, yeah, you could make it larger or smaller. But basically, what you do is the most common way is.
So excited! We'll take.
I love how I'm going like this.
I'm like perfect.
Like geez.
But you take
Lamar Odom.
It's called a radial free forearm flap. So the radial artery Like if you feel in here, you can feel the pulse, but you can feel it down here. The pulse down here is the radial artery. You know, they always feel
the wrist pulse. Yeah.
Right, and so that vessel runs all the way up here, and up here it's the brachial artery. It becomes radial down there. You take a big square of skin and you peel it off, but you leave the vessels and the nerves attached. It's called microsurgery. That's when I did a fellowship at UCLA microsurgery. So you detach the skin with its blood vessels and arteries attached. You take that skin and you wrap it into a tube, and then you attach it down there and you hook up the arteries, you hook up the veins, you hook up the nerves under a microscope, because these vessels are like 2 millimeters in diameter.
Super tiny. Yeah.
Holy shit!
And then you just take a skin graft to slap on here to cover up the wound that you took off, because when you take this off, it's like the muscle's all there, so you have to cover that with a skin graft. So they'll have it looks like a patch when it's all healed. And then they get an implant, to make it, to get it hard. But
an implant
for their what's called the neopenis. They'll have an implant to
the neopenis is the fake penis.
But I will tell you, these things, they have advanced the point that this shit looks real. It does not look like, you'll look at it and think it's a normal, it's not, it's really like, there's really some nuances to how it's designed to look like a,
That's
but does it work? Can they get hard?
Yeah, you were explaining the hard.
The implant would be to get it hard. So when you do a male to female, what they do is they save the tip of the tip of the penis becomes the clitoris.
The clitoris, I've heard that. Yeah.
So that tip, because that's where a lot of nerve endings are. I see someone holding their face, but she's really shy. So they can still orgasm because they get that nerve stimulation is still there. It's a little bit trickier. It's harder for the female to male to orgasm, even though you hook up the nerves. It's not quite the same. But orgasms happen up here, so as long as you're getting the sensation, you can get it. But yeah, I'm telling you that and not only that, the facial feminization surgery. Actually, one of my mentors. I got to show you this. I know we're on a.
This is so interesting, dude.
One of my mentors.
Dude, I'm actually blown away. I'm blown away. I've always wondered, like, where does the cock come from? They get it from a dead guy, or
one of my no.
I want that guy's.
I got Lamar Odom's. So there's one of my mentors.
Imagine you're white with a big ass black cock. Come here,
I'll
man.
be cocky as fuck.
I'll be naked.
You're really tan down there. What happened? But so look at this. So there's facial feminization surgery too. So let me show you. Actually, he just showed one.
I'd be carrying myself differently, bro.
So they actually not only do surgery down there, but they'll do surgery of the body as well, and then they'll do surgery in the face. Well, they'll literally shave bone. Rhinoplasties do things. You can see the difference.
Oh shit! To make it more of like feminine features.
So here, look at this.
God,
look at this example, left and right.
Wow.
So see the
male to
difference?
female.
Male to female.
Yeah.
Same person, right? So
holy shit.
So there's a lot that goes into these, and they're huge undertakings. They're massive. It's multiple surgeries over a period of time, but they've really gotten to the point where you could meet someone and not know. You could really. You want to talk about that one time?
I was actually going to keep that one under wraps. But does the vagina?
Yeah.
That's a nice way to say it. Vagina. Does the vagina look like a vagina?
Yeah, no, it does. So, I don't mean to get graphic. This is how it is.
Yeah, you're professional.
What they do is you take the testicles and you take the sack and you invert it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I'm so immature.
But that's what it is.
Invert it, and so it's.
So
there's a bottom.
You create a space.
Can they get wet?
You dissect a space. No, but you dissect a space, and then you take that and push it in and secure it so it stays in. So that becomes the vaginal canal.
Wow.
So you have to use lube if you
And you just discard the balls. You just toss them, or how does that work?
I guess.
Damn, you never asked what they do with them post out.
I don't think anyone's keeping them.
Crazy.
They save them. What if that's like the secret to some crazy sickness? Like.
You just eat your testicles.
No, that is crazy though, because to your point,
that's the secret to life,
it's gotten so
forever.
advanced to the point where you really cannot tell if somebody has transitioned or something. And
yeah,
one of our buddies was in a club in I think Indonesia. We were just talking about Indonesia before this, and he started kissing a girl, and then one of his boys was like, "Oh, I think she has an Adam's apple."
Well, they even do surgery for that.
And that can be removed too.
Tracheal shave. So
when you remove the testicles, does that take care of a lot of like the deep voice, or is
testosterone?
They're on hormone therapy long before they do surgery. So one of the first steps in the gender confirmation process is hormone therapy.
So estrogen.
So they'll be modifying their hormone profile to mimic the gender they're transitioning to. So that happens even before their surgery. Surgery is like the last step. You have to go through a lot of hoops for good reason to get to the point where they're doing surgery, because there's no going back.
But have you ever heard of someone doing both?
You mean going then going back?
Yeah.
No, I don't. It's not really
Possible.
Because it's pretty like intense.
I
guess it's possible,
right?
but yeah,
It'd be mangled.
It's a complicated field. There's a high suicide rate among those patients. It's there's
Really?
a lot of coexisting psychiatric issues, which can honestly it could be because they've been dealing with a lot of stuff their whole lives.
Of course.
So they're complicated patients. It's not easy. It's not as simple as just doing a surgery and then bye bye.
Yeah.
And I mean that's got to be a lot on your body, like to do that and then reverse
well, and
it.
they're big surgeries. I mean, these are surgeries. You do this as a 12-hour surgery, and then they're in the hospital for several days. It's not like it's just they do that and go home. I mean, it's a big undertaking, and they used to be hugely expensive. I think the prices have changed a little bit, but I mean, I'm saying insurance would even reimburse a lot because these were when they got covered by insurance would pay out 6 figures for these cases to the surgeons. I mean, it's crazy. There's a lot of money in it. Jeez. It's changing now because not a lot of people did it. There weren't a lot of people that knew how to do it. So it was like
And it was relatively new when you were in Chicago doing it.
When did that like really start?
I don't have the dates on like when it. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I'm sure a quick Google search would tell you. But
this wasn't like they weren't attempting this like 100 years ago. Right?
No, I mean not safely anyway. But I think that it's. The society started shifting in the last decade to be more open to it, and it sort of became something. I think when insurance companies started covering it, that was a big shift. When they started recognizing that it was because basically
more incentive.
Well, what they said is it's a treatment for a illness. It's
some mental.
It's a psychiatric problem and that's the treatment is to get their gender to match with their
mind.
It's called gender dysphoria. So so it's actually considered a treatment. It's not a cosmetic thing. So that's why insurance started, kind of taking.
That makes sense.
You said those surgeries are super long. What's like the quickest surgery that you perform?
Breast dog, probably.
And
I mean, you can do a breast dog in 25 minutes, but I'm not in a rush to do it. But if I wanted to, I could do it that fast.
What's a breast dog?
A breast augmentation.
Breast augmentation. You thought he was saying dog?
So is that both ways, like bigger or smaller?
Yeah. Oh no, bigger. A breast reduction takes longer.
Okay.
But breast augmentation, placing implants can be done pretty fast.
Okay, so what are the implants that I was on a beach one time and I saw like a silicone implant. That versus is breast always a silicone implant, or do you fill that with fat from other places from the body?
Wait, you were on a beach?
I was on a beach. Yeah, I thought it was a jellyfish, and my mom and my
Wait, you saw an implant sitting on the ground?
Washed up like on the beach, like it was clearly in the water, and my mom and my aunt were like,
that's a dark story.
Getting so weak. Miami? They were laughing. I think it might have been. Yeah, no, it was in Florida. It was in Florida.
No, at the gym I used to work out with, my trainer would have me use for hip thrusts. He would put the implants like on my hips to like protect from the belt.
It's a good stress.
They were strong as fuck.
I used them as stress ball. Well, so the quick thing on implants. So there's saline and silicone. Both of them have a silicone polymer shell, but it's what's inside. So saline implants are filled with salt water. Silicone implants are filled with silicone gel. Most of the time nowadays we're using silicone. It's rare that we use saline because saline it's salt water. So you can if you don't have a lot of tissue covering it, you can tell the difference between a bag of fluid versus silicone.
For sure.
The silicone gel implants are in our 5th generation of them. They're designed to move and feel just like natural tissue, like you wouldn't know. You can do an augmentation that looks natural. Like the idea that anyone has a boob job that looks unnatural, that's outdated.
Yeah, like when they become stiff, like what does that do to?
That's called capsular contraction. That's different. So that's something that can happen 1% per year, 5 to 10% at 10 years. Get that? And it's where scar tissue around the implant just gets hard.
Gotcha.
But most cases, most of my patients are looking for more of a natural result. And I think that's the trend everywhere these days.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You can do a breast augmentation where it's like, did she or didn't she? And those are the best kind for a lot of these patients. And so it can be done with these implants, and they feel natural. Like the patients I've had who are actresses, that's what they want. They don't want people to know. So they want it to look more kind of natural and, I'm just wearing a push-up bra or whatever. So it's very, very possible to get that kind of a result now. So most of the time we're using silicone implants.
Does there have to be a big scar?
No, it's about 3 centimeters now.
Where is it?
It's like around the nipple, right?
There's 3 different options for silicone: armpit, around the areola, and underneath the breast. Okay. So it depends on it's
it's
on each
interesting.
exam.
You can go through the armpit.
The last one I seen was underneath.
Yeah. The gold standard is most of the cases underneath, but I've done both. I had a patient who was a model, like a well-known model, and she did lingerie and swimsuit modeling. And so she used her on the areola because she didn't want it to.
Oh, right.
Didn't want it to be seen on the
Of course, if there's a little underboob or something in one of her shoots. In terms of what was I just gonna ask?
Little underboob in her shoot.
Is that Carter?
Oh yeah, how many cup sizes can you go up at once? Like a lot of people do it gradually, right? If they want to make
This was not in the brochure.
Oh wow,
yeah.
the
He's
Wisconsin.
got the Badgers one.
Well,
and I don't even know why we have that because we're Nebraska boys, you know. So like,
good for you guys.
That's kind of a sin for us to be having.
This is a classy establishment after all. There's no absolute number to cup sizes.
Okay.
It depends on the patient, how tight their skin is, how big they're starting. I really don't need to be doing this.
Cheers, boys.
Sammy's
trying to get the real answers out of him.
Right, I get it. The truth serum.
That's good,
Well,
man.
at
That
least you
shit
get Blanco.
burned.
I appreciate that.
so-
Are you chasing that right now? What's wrong with you?
Don't be a baby.
What's wrong with you?
That's why he needs that cock enhancement surgery. He's no sack on him.
Wait. The alcohol just made me think of something, Johnson. Don't forget your question because I know you're about to ask.
I got it.
Like, have you? I mean, maybe you don't want to actually be honest about this, but like, has there ever been like a crazy night where like the next morning at 7 a.m. you have to like do a serious surgery?
So I'm pretty good now. That I don't drink before I'm operating. So I'm pretty strict with that.
Like 24 hours before? Is there?
Well,
like,
just the night before. I mean, I might have like a glass of wine with
Right,
dinner,
right,
but
right.
I don't like. No, I mean, dude, I'm
inebriated.
old, man. Like my days of hitting stuff hard is long gone. Like,
Anything that would throw you off in the
No.
yes, it
Hey,
is. Sammy.
You remember Baker and Emily's wedding? You know?
Yeah.
That might have been more of a
We've
me
got
thing.
some times.
We were sitting at the same table.
You were really got
was
into it.
blacked
Johnson
out.
was soft.
The best was, at the beginning of the night, he's like, "Hey man, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
How do you do?" 10 minutes later, like,
Yeah.
"Yo," like I was like,
He's got a tie on his
Halfway-
head.
man.
halfway
He
Sweating.
looked like 12 years old. That was like
halfway through Annie's speech, like nothing.
Yeah.
Gone. The rest of the night's just
Blacked
gone.
out.
Yeah.
No, there's certain things. There's certain things I can't. You get to. You guys will see this eventually. There are certain benchmarks as you get older, and one of them is you get to an age where you can't be publicly drunk anymore.
Totally.
You can 100% do it, and you guys go for it. How
Yeah.
about
yeah.
if I'm publicly drunk, that is not a good look ever,
Absolutely.
ever. Unless I'm like publicly drunk in another country where no one's there, but
Yeah.
me and my
Right.
girl or whatever. Like
Vacation.
that,
Of course.
Yeah, that's that. But you just can't pull that off.
You've got this very professional grown life to, of course.
Oh, here's another thing. This is totally off subject. I don't know. I just thought. I just had a conversation with a friend of mine recently. I'm at that age right now where, and I noticed this in LA.
How old are you? 55?
It's not important. It's just enough.
No, I'm
But
kidding.
you get
It's
to
not
a-
55.
But how you dress when you start to get older. I'm at this age right now where if like you can't dress. Like there are those guys that look like they're trying to dress like they're 25.
Yeah, you
Right,
see some of
It's
those
ridiculous.
wearing like these funny,
yeah,
bro.
yeah.
You like
How-
like jeans. You're like,
Yeah, you're like,
what are you, a rapper?
Yeah, or like you see them in the clubs or whatever, and you're like, oh, dude, no, everyone knows you're old.
Just
Like,
way too
stop.
try hard. No, for sure.
But you can't dress like dad yet, so it's like you're in this in between.
No,
Sort of,
I think you're doing
got
a
the
great
perfect swag.
job.
I was gonna
You got a
say.
very
No, you know
mature
what-
swag.
You know
You
what
got
the
the
answer
perfect
is? Simple. No,
Yeah.
I keep it simple.
Yeah.
Solid colors, no patterns.
Yeah.
Some nice boat shoes.
Yeah,
you know?
just keep
Those
it
common
simple.
projects.
It's complicated. Yeah.
No, you got a good swag too. I think
do.
you actually have like a very. I mean, it's just cool to know somebody that's got the swagger, that's professional, that's very successful.
Yep.
Thank you, Sammy.
You're handsome.
Oh, Sammy, keep
He's
going.
like,
But you still have a good time.
It is
though.
cool
looks
to
like,
have
looks
you.
like that shot's kicking in for Sammy.
He's handsome. What are you doing later? Yeah. No, it's just cool though. It's like,
So I mean, I know at the end of the day I'm a big dork. Like it's fine. But it's just funny, and you notice it more in LA because there's
Yeah.
a lot. There's a Peter Pan syndrome. When I lived in New York, it was the same thing. There's a lot of guys who are older, trying to hold on to their youth, and it's like it's a weird. Well, now I'm at that age, and I'm cognizant of it.
you're starting to get tattoos.
Well, no. But here, let me explain that. No. So I started getting tattoos a while ago, but now I'm getting
kidding.
tattoos that are visible. But what was interesting about that is I used to think I couldn't because of my job.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's something I noticed right away. I was like,
Yeah.
damn, a surgeon with tats.
Yeah.
And so
I'm going to him.
But it was like but it was for me like everyone body art means different things to different people. I always loved it. For me, there were things that were really meaningful that if I ever have kids, I would explain each one to my child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people can do whatever they want for themselves. But that was what it was for me. They're like Post-its. But I always thought I couldn't because of my job. Mm-hmm. I got far enough along where now I'm busy and things are going well. That I don't mean to be reckless, but I just don't care. If
Yeah.
you don't like it, that's fine. If you
Yes.
don't like the way I do what I do, that's okay. I'm not offended. Go somewhere else. Like, that's
Totally.
fine. And it's not. I don't mean that in like I'm better than you. It's just it's okay. Like you get to a point where you're fine with who you are, and if someone isn't, that's fine. It took me a while, probably a little bit longer than it should have to get there, but that's kind of what it kind of came down to for me.
Do you think that has to do with like you having established like your mark in this industry, like your craft, like people know who you are in this game now, and now it's like okay, I can do what I want.
I think it would have been riskier a few years ago when I wasn't as busy. Sure, I mean I think it was safer now to be like I don't care, but I also think it was part of it was my own maturity, which I'm not saying I'm fully matured. I'm still working on stuff, but part of it was that, and I don't know. The other thing I was talking about with someone recently, because we were joking about midlife crisis, because I just joke with people like, yeah, I'm fully entrenched in my midlife crisis. And there, people are like, oh, you're going to get the Ferrari next and all this. And I'm like, what people don't understand about midlife crisis, it's not a midlife crisis for a lot of people. It's the first time they have money.
Yeah.
They can afford to do the things they couldn't do in their 20s.
They couldn't do in their 20s.
Yeah, it's like when someone's like, oh, he's got a Ferrari. No, he couldn't afford a Ferrari 20 years ago. So of course he has a Ferrari.
Crazy. I never thought about that.
And so it's like, it's an easy target for people to go after people like that, but it's they're finally doing things that they've worked hard. And I'm not getting.
He's just covering his boundaries.
I'm not. No.
Like,
that's not me.
He's about to get. So when I have the Ferrari.
I'm not. That's not.
The 458.
Tomorrow he's pulling the Lambo off the line.
Actually, it's funny. You didn't see me pull in, so my car is in the shop.
Yeah, we were looking for.
I was gonna ask.
Well, no, I have like the traditional douchebag LA car. I drive a Range Rover, but
That's great.
But it's in the shop because I sideswiped my garage pulling out. And they gave me like a soccer mom Mercedes. It's hilarious. It's really something to kind of drive around with that thing now. So
they just did you dirty.
Yeah.
Johnson, you were asking something when I was asking about the shortest surgery, right?
Yeah. So I mean, this even goes along. Like, I'm sure you couldn't be getting visible tattoos when you were getting board certified. It's called. Like, what was that process?
You could. I mean, it's not like there was no one saying you couldn't. I mean, I think for me it was more like I think earlier on I was like afraid that people would get a perception and wouldn't choose me as their doctor.
I feel you.
At a time when because people, they're just judgy people. Like one of my friends put it best. He said, it can only hurt you. It can only hurt you to have that stuff.
Yeah. It's not going to enhance anything.
It's not going to enhance anything. It's not going to help you. You're not going to all of a sudden get more popular because of it or more busy. It's only going to hurt you. And so when he said it like that, I was like, shit, I don't know. So the tattoos I would get were more hidden. And then, when I kind of made a decision, like, all right, well, now there's ideas I had for what I wanted to do that were more visible. And now I just like, whatever, it's fine. Totally. And most of my and I found, especially, listen, if I was in the Midwest.
Yeah, you're in California.
Exactly.
Too,
everyone here, I mean, shit. Everyone here has a DUI and a tattoo. Like everyone. So it's like, it's sort of like, it's not as stigmatized here. But when I go home, like I was in Wisconsin, my brother had his engagement party. My parents had one in Wisconsin. I mean, he's in New York and he's getting married in New York. But my dad comes up to me. He doesn't say anything. Because it was the first time they had seen some of them. And he sits down and he goes, it's reversible, right? That's all he said.
My mom always says that.
He said, you can reverse that, right? And I said, yeah, I could, but I'm not going. He's like, okay. He just got it.
I love your Instagram stories and whatever with you and your parents.
I
just
love
get me
my
so
parents,
weak.
Man.
They seem awesome.
No, they're good people.
Are they
the Midwest, dude?
Yeah. What's that?
That's the Midwest.
I know.
It's just good people.
They're still in Wisconsin, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we come out because all you guys are from Midwest,
Nebraska and Arizona.
I'm from Arizona, but I have family in Wisconsin and Chicago. So
we have a very different view of family coming from there.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it till you come here. Mm-hmm. Or when I was to a lesser extent, New York. And, it's kind of refreshing when I go back there.
A lot of people here aren't even close with their parents that are from it. Like, it's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's been the hardest part about me being here. So all my siblings are on the East Coast. I got 2 brothers and a sister. They're in New York and D.C. My parents are in the Midwest. So I'm out here. I'm away from my family. And that's one thing that's hard.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. And especially as my parents get older.
Agreed.
I will tell you guys when you're younger. I mean, I know you do. Mm-hmm. Spend as much time with them as you can.
Mm-hmm. We talk about this a lot.
That's why FaceTime is so cool. I call them damn near every day just because I can.
And if you can do this, I'll tell you one thing you should do. And I tried to do this and it fell through. Make a point to take a big trip with them someday. Yeah. I mean, like a first class, like blow your wad, go to Europe, do something that's like you will never ever forget.
Just stick in the memory forever type shit. Yeah.
And while they can, don't wait till they're 80 or 90.
They can't walk.
They can't walk or it's hard.
Right.
Do that. One of my friends did it and he said it was the best thing he ever did. And I lament not doing that. I mean, I still have had great times with my parents, but that's hard to do.
Yeah. That's inspiring me right now.
How did they get to Wisconsin? Or were they born and raised there as well?
My mom, so all my grandparents were immigrants. My mom grew up in Missouri, actually. She grew up outside of St. Louis. My dad grew up in Milwaukee. And so I'm Greek. And
like Giannis.
Yeah, exactly.
That's look kind of the same. No one ever told you that?
I know. Only some body parts more than others. But yeah. But my parents, so there's a thing in the Greek, like Greeks are like, they try to marry Greeks. Like they try to keep the bloodline pure or whatever. Mm-hmm. But
are you going for that?
It's probably not going to happen. But my at this point, so my sister married a Greek guy. My older brother's wife is Taiwanese. So, and then my brother's marrying someone who's the same religion, but she's Russian. So anyway, so but in the Greek culture, in the Greek church, they had these conventions. They're like twice a year. And they're billed as like a convention that young people can go and they have these workshops. It's bullshit. It's like where you go meet your wife or husband. That's what they were. And that's where my parents
Everyone
met.
knew what it really was.
Yeah, that's where my parents met. My sister met her husband that way. And so that's how my parents met. And my dad chased my mom for a while. She said no a bunch of times. And then eventually you broke her down.
She fell through.
It's kind of crazy because in this 2021 era, like, people would get mad at you for, like, chasing a girl or some shit after she said no. Like, my dad, same story. Like, he was chasing my mom around. She was denying him.
There's a fine line, you know?
No, there's
like,
a fine line.
Being, like, creepy, yeah. Like,
yeah, but now it's like, she already said no.
You're stalking
me. It's like, well, okay, shit.
Well, I think that's a dynamic, right? And I guess you guys would have a different perspective on that. So I'm curious what you guys would say. But, you know, when I grew up, it was, you know, men open doors, men pay for everything. It's, you know, there was that kind of mentality. That was the chivalrous thing to do. But now, you know, there's with you know, more of a movement of female empowerment, which is great. It's kind of, I think at times, muddy the water a little bit.
For sure.
I don't know if you guys experience this or you see this, or if it's still...
Yeah, like, I mean, you don't know if you should pay or...
Well, I mean, paying...
I think there's a fine line between female empowerment and, like, you know, just guys being guys.
Being
and, like,
gentlemen.
doing gentlemanly things, you know? Yeah.
There's like a certain level of respect that should always stay.
And there's a certain type of feminist who's like...
If
you open a door for them, they'll like, get pissed at you or something.
I can
it's
do
like,
that myself.
bro, fuck you. Okay, I won't hold the door for you then. Like, Jesus.
So I
like,
think that's... I don't even know where that falls. Like, you know, I still err on the side of, hey, do the things. I think the paying thing is weird sometimes because I think there's a culture of people out there that just have an expectation that they don't have to pay for anything.
Men are the
I know
breadwinners.
girls that go out to go out for a night and they have $1 in their wallet and they're not planning to spend anything else.
Of course.
There's an expectation. So
that seems like very common here.
It's
a Los Angeles.
But I think it's also like something that...
But I was going to say, hold on, but that exists because guys perpetrate it too.
They keep doing it, yeah.
Because there's guys that there are guys that sort of perpetrate that lifestyle. I don't fault, like, listen, there are women out there who exploit it. I mean, they're not, listen, if there's a guy who's willing to do it,
right?
Yeah, it is.
They're not
it's
wrong.
not, you know, it's not her fault.
Of course.
You know, so guys bear some responsibility.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Right.
You know?
No, I mean, there's some of that. I mean, it's, you know, now don't lie about it.
Yeah.
Don't pretend it, you know, but anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
I don't even...
That's a good point.
No idea.
Are you never interrupt you again.
No, but it's real. You can be a gentleman and not have to, like, you know, do everything in the relationship.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I think it's just like the respect that, especially being from Midwest, I feel like we all have like a certain set of morals that we're given through our parents, and I feel like it just be respectful, and then But there's times where it's like the girl will pay, and I'll be like, sure.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. Like, my mom and dad seem to split stuff pretty evenly. They both, you know, they both work jobs, and my mom will cook one night, my dad will cook another night. It's pretty, like, split across the board. My dad will do, like, outdoors chores. My mom's a little more, like, hindered by her hip, you know, replacement surgery, and she'll be doing more, you know, stuff around the house and inside, and they kind of have their division, but they're both doing everything.
Money is
a healthy relationship.
Money is just one form of currency.
Totally.
There's other forms of currency.
Totally.
So if one person's paying for other things, there's other ways that people in relationships can reciprocate. And listen, I'm not saying I have it figured out. Like, I have messed up my fair share of relationships, no question about it. I'm, in spite of being from the Midwest and having great parents.
Are you a Bev Hills bachelor right now?
What's that?
Are you a Bev Hills bachelor right now?
No, I'm not now. But I'm just saying, like, I know my past is littered with bad decisions that definitely violated, like, how I was raised. Like, I went through my growing pains with things, and
everyone's
like
absolutely
like,
make
evolution.
mistakes.
I'm not trying to make myself out to be like this Midwestern saint.
Are you trying to get married?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
Is that on your mind right now?
Yeah, my feeling. So I've always thought I wanted kids, and I'll tell you why. I look at people. I have never ever met someone who wished they hadn't had kids.
Yeah.
And I've every single person who's had them is grateful that they have them.
Yeah.
And that's not the only reason. I think that you know, as you get older, you realize your legacy is the relationships in your life. It's not the. I mean, although, you know, you guys doing music, that's a different thing. Like, that's leaving something behind.
Right.
You know, you listen to David Bowie, you listen to some of these artists who are gone, and that's their legacy still. But for most of us, our legacy is our relationships. It's our family. It's our kids. And I do struggle with the idea that I'd be 60 or 70 and be like, I don't have any kids.
Yeah.
But I also recognize it's not entirely up to me. Like, there's 2 people I got to play in that, and it's got to work out with, you know, biology and all that stuff. So I don't try to put too much, like, if I don't have kids, my life's a failure.
Of course, and you also wouldn't want to just settle, like, for having kids with somebody who you didn't truly love or something. Like.
But the answer is yes. I do want to, you know, I do believe in, like, getting married and having kids and doing those things. But I recognize that, you know, it's not all up to me.
Mm-hmm. What's what's your dating life like? You got anybody?
Yeah, like, is it tough to, like, find
Sammy's
someone?
got me weak today.
I'm not. I'm good. I've got someone that I really like.
Oh,
you're happy?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
I mean, look, you know, still working things out, but yeah.
She's got to just be so great.
Yeah.
Because you're great.
Yeah. Thanks, Sammy. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, Sam. What's up?
What's up with you
right now? How's that going for you?
I mean, I
don't know.
Wait, isn't there a French Canadian coming in on Monday or something? Man. That you're kind of in love with?
I have a feeling this is going to get to the chopping block.
I've
Sammy
got
has a
cool
lineup.
things. I've got interesting relationships with girls. We've talked about it before. I'm a lover.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to continue to love. And if I meet somebody that I think is great, I will spend the next week with you.
Okay.
And one of these week-long things is going to end up being my wife.
So let me ask you this. So you're how old?
25.
25.
All 25?
24.
Okay. So, because I think back to when I was that. There is no rush.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great mentality.
Yeah.
You know, have fun. Do it because there is something to getting it out of your system. You don't want to feel like there's something you hadn't experienced or hadn't done when you find that person.
Yeah.
Because that will, I do think that pollutes your brain.
I agree.
So I think while you're young and you have the ability, the mistake I had made when I was younger is I wasn't honest about, I don't think I was truly honest with myself or with other people about my intentions. I thought I was doing what I thought was, I should be doing this. But in my mind, I was like, I'm not ready for this yet.
Yeah.
Totally.
And that's the mistake I made. I wasn't, I regret that. And I think I hurt people and I didn't mean to. I truly believed I was trying to do the right thing. But what I would tell my younger self is, listen, just be honest about your intentions. Have fun, explore, because it's only through that exploration that you really, truly figure out what you want and what's important to you. And I thought I had it figured out in my late 20s, 30s. No, I didn't. It wasn't until my 40s that I'm like, no, these are the things that are important to me. And I only found that out because of trial and error and screwing it up. So don't be in a rush. If it happens, great.
Yeah.
I'm not saying fight it, but
don't just try to rush.
I mean, that's something my brother's going through too right now. He's 30, he's making good money, and he's like, he was with this girl for a long time, and he was like, I didn't get to experience
8 years, right?
Yeah, he's like, but I never got to like meet other girls and flirt with other girls.
Yeah.
And
it gets tricky when you have money.
But he was like, I need to go experience that. So like they ended up just like
he's living he's what, 31?
No, he's 29. He's 30 in October, but yeah.
He's living how we lived when we were 18 right now.
Yeah, right now. He's like going out and socializing and it's hilarious, but he's like, I didn't want to regret that. I didn't want to.
But I will tell you, it gets also, for me, it got a little cloudy when I got money because it was, money buys you freedom.
Yes.
And it buys options. And it also, people get interested.
Do intentions
that probably weren't interested before. And,
right.
And you become a little bit aware of that. But it's but just the same, it's you suddenly have, it opens doors for things you can do that you couldn't do before. And so I don't know, it's complicated. I think I was later in the game than most people. I think I made some mistakes early on with that, but I don't have any regrets per se. Like it happened just the way it was supposed to for me, but I don't know. I mean, you guys are in a great spot, man. Love it. Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, the biggest thing that I notice is just being young in this industry and having some success. It's like, what are your intentions? And I'm sure you felt the same thing, like you said, with getting money, and how that kind of changes the landscape of the whole, dating life and everything. It's like, what are your intentions? Do we actually have a genuine vibe? Like, is there something underneath this that you're not saying to me that And I think usually you can tell. I feel like I've developed a good bullshit meter over the years.
You guys have that too, right? You guys are all, prominent on social media. I know your DMs are probably lit up with all kinds of shit.
I wish they looked like
I
you.
know his. I have
a lot of Middle Eastern dudes right now in my DMs. I don't know why.
Well, how do you guys handle that?
A ton of them.
So let me ask you that. I'm curious because you guys I don't know what your status is, but just assuming you go back to when you weren't attached to someone and you would get those inquiries or people coming. How did you sift through that?
I don't look at all.
Just didn't.
Yeah, I don't obviously have as much as them, but I don't even look at it.
You don't.
But I would look. But usually I'm not interested. But there's
you'll
sometimes
look, you'll look.
Yeah,
you'll look and be like, oh, they got a blue check.
That would always be interesting,
right? Yeah, when you see the blue check, you're like, I gotta check this out.
I'll scan through my DMs time to time. You know what I'm saying?
And you just get a bunch of guys.
Yeah, Middle Eastern dudes. Yeah.
But is it not a sad state of affairs that you can have a woman that messages you who's beautiful, and you can take the same profile and put her 100 followers, no check mark, and then take the same profile and give her 1 million followers and a check mark, and you're going to look at it differently, right?
Of course,
totally.
All of us
perception
do.
is
But it's
so
true.
Real.
It's so messed up. I've done the same thing.
Bad.
There's an attraction to that, but I feel like that's fading. I don't know.
I've almost flipped. I'm very attracted to almost not that now. Like,
yes.
If you're like a prominent figure and you have a fucking millions of followers as well, like I'm almost like, damn, like
I feel like I know
is this what I want
getting.
out of a relationship, or are we just doing this for the smoke and mirrors of it all? You know, it makes me kind of question the whole thing.
There's like if you meet like this cute girl, you guys hit it off, and you find out she's got 3,000 followers on it, which is small nowadays.
That's kind of
like
fire.
This is even way more attractive.
Yeah,
right. Because it's like, why are we doing this? Are we in love with the thought of what we are? Like this image.
She doesn't
we
care
are?
about
Like,
her.
I'll tell you, it was a
internet.
great thing. Or when I look and I see her last post was 2 months ago.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's great.
So into it.
That's a great feeling.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it's been daily, you know, or like her stories are
Those
lit up
girls
with
are
stuff.
different.
When you see like the dot.
Yeah.
Like that's like, oh, that's great. That's
No,
great.
totally.
You're
That's
living
become
your life,
like-
you're living your life with the phone down. That's amazing. So
That's the goal, honestly, for me, for sure.
no.
I can't do this social media stuff. That shit clouds my head, and I'm a head case already,
sure.
so that shit fucks me up.
Hey, just
But Dr.
wait.
G, what's some like shit you do that's like, you know, like what do you do for fun? I know you skydive.
Really?
Yeah, so I got
He's like,
how many times have you gone?
certified one.
I've got about 90 jumps, which is not in the skydiving world. It's not a lot, but I started skydiving when I was 18. I got my license. When I was young, I was like, when I get old enough, I'm either gonna get a pilot's license or a skydiving license, and the skydiving thing was the thing that happened first. So I did it for a little bit, and then I quit. And then when pandemic happened this past year, I got back into it, and I just like, I don't know.
Was it like riding a bike though? You knew what to do when you got up there.
Kind of, and I sort of, I mean.
Did you?
I lied.
Did you have to
So-
go tandem? Like
No, I never went tandem, but it's funny. So when I did my research jump, I told them my last jump was a year ago. It had been like 15 years or 10 years.
Holy shit!
Because if I had told them that, they would
It's
have
a
made me
little
do a
white
whole
lie.
bunch
You
of
probably
shit.
had to get recertified or something.
So I'm like, oh, yeah, it's just been a year, and they're like, okay, we're gonna jump. You're gonna do a turn, a barrel roll. This. I'm like, yeah, cool. And the whole ride up, I'm like, fuck, I hope I still can do that.
wait, so you went solo?
Yeah, well, there's an instructor jumping with you, but he's not. I have my own chute, and he's.
Yeah, it's been 15 years since your last jump.
It had been almost 15
So it
years.
must be
Was
like
it-
riding a bike.
was it riding a bike? I was gonna
So I was a little nervous in that one, but it went fine. Came back, and then so here's what I tell people about skydiving. So skydiving is a sport, and people assume it's this adrenaline junkie thing. You guys should come.
No,
I was just going to say.
I
we
want
should
to
go.
go.
say,
I'm intrigued.
We were going to go.
We'll all go out.
It was
we'll all go out
G's-
sometime.
Or it was our buddy's birthday, like April 20. When is Josh's birthday?
April
G?
7th.
April 7th, and we were gonna go, and we had it all booked with our buddy Zion. He's from this boy band, and he's been trying to get us to go forever. And we were all waking up, about to go. I was getting all the boys rallied, and
it just always falls.
they fell through. They fell through.
I
on
will
me.
hold you guys to it. We'll go.
I'm down.
telling you,
Let's
it's
do it.
really it's spectacular. But for me, it's so when you do it enough, it's not an adrenaline rush. I mean, I did a helicopter jump recently. That was pretty intense. But a regular
helicopter jump?
yeah,
It's just way
I'll show
lower.
you a
Like you're just
video.
way lower, right?
Dude, I'll tell you about that in a second. 'Cause it was trippy.
Okay.
But when I jump, what I tell people is it's meditative for me. When I go out and I jump for a day or go a few jumps, I'm not thinking about anything else.
Right.
My brain goes crazy like during the week. I'm always thinking about things. When I'm skydiving, there's nothing else on my mind, and it is a true escape for me. So it's meditative. I'm
Is it
not
just
thinking-
because you could die, so it forces you?
I mean, there's certainly
like-
like you need to pay attention.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lock
you
in.
need to be in that, and it's a surreal experience and all that. But it's not the rush of it. It's just like it's fun. And right now, I'm trying to work on a different skill set, so it's like it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you guys haven't done, I recommend it. But
No,
I mean,
we should do it. Like,
Hey,
we should
time
honestly
and
go
place,
with him. I would
we're
love to
fucking
go.
there.
I kind of want to
Fucking
just
there.
let go and just
Yeah.
see.
Well,
how
so
it goes.
the helicopter thing recently was they had a helicopter at the drop zone I go to. And you had to have like a B license to do it, so you need to be somewhat experienced to do it. But so it goes up to like 8,000 feet, and then you climb out. And then my friends and I were like, "Let's climb out. And let's hang off of the."
Oh, yeah.
hang off. Of the
I gotta
thing."
see the video.
I got to show you a funny video because one guy slipped and fell.
You are an adrenaline junkie.
No,
though.
it's not adrenaline. I mean, that was a
gracious.
little crazy, but the crazy thing about this was when the helicopter was taking off, the doors are open. They didn't close the doors, and you couldn't wear a seatbelt because the seatbelt could tangle you when you're getting up. So it was just buckled, and so you had to just hold on to it. So I'm like half out, like you see in the movies, where, like the army guys, like their legs are dangling
Yeah.
out. That shit's scary. Like I was scared there,
Right.
Because there's nothing like
You
things
can't pull
taking
the
off.
chute if you
Yeah,
fall.
if you fall, you're dead. Like
Yeah.
so I've never held anything tighter than I was holding that seatbelt when I got to up to altitude. But when you got up to altitude, it got into like 8,000 feet. When we climbed out, there's nothing to really hold on to because they're not built for people to like be climbing out and doing
Yeah.
shit. They're
For sure.
You're supposed to step off when you're on the ground. And so one of the guys, I got out of the door and sort of turned around and then like leaned up against the helicopter and got to the very end. And what I was standing on just kind of reached down and hung off.
Oh my god, fuck.
The guy in the middle, when he was trying to get down, he slipped and he just fell. He's fine. He has a parachute.
But he just slipped and fell out of that.
But the video is hilarious because one of the guys, he made this hysterical like
shit.
TikTok video of it that's just like had like clown music, like and the guy like falls off. It was hilarious. I'll show it to you guys.
That should, yeah. Yeah, screenshot of that guy to girl thing, and then this video. Send that to us.
I was like, how do you not feel like Vin Diesel in that moment? You know, just fucking adrenaline pumping.
Yeah, it was fun. Man.
Should we do some?
We asked our followers if they have any questions for you. We have a predominantly female audience, so maybe they have some interesting.
Yeah, everybody who's still tuned in, I'm assuming this has been a really interesting episode. Yes, so if you're not tuned in,
this is like my favorite episode. Seriously, like. We need to have more professionals on, you know?
I say that, whatever. I loved how you start off like, normally we have influencers. Today we're not going to deal with anyone who's influential.
like in the social media.
Dude, I'm kidding. You know,
but we are, like, we have millions of followers. We make music. Like, we talk to artists and we talk to influencers. It's like, we know everything about every single, you know, there's different
I was like, these aren't interesting.
It's not interesting.
I mean, it is. You are, but like.
It's just cool to learn.
We have no idea about your
right. You know? You guys don't learn that much.
We don't learn much talking to these people. Talking to you,
your followers might, but you guys.
I feel like we just had a science lesson.
You learn inspirational shit, you know, and how they grinded.
All right, cool, man.
But what's one? Sorry, I'm gonna ask him a question before we start. What's a trend? This is kind of like Ask the Cast. What's a trend, like a beauty trend, like a trend that's going on that you're not a fan of, or is there any like?
Okay, I wouldn't say it's a trend, but you've seen it. People that overdo fillers.
Yeah.
Oh,
you see it a lot here. That's a problem. And honestly, I don't even blame the patients. I blame the providers because the providers should know better.
Yeah.
And there's a time to say no and to say to stop. Fillers are not meant to do wild things to the face. And I mean, some people come out and I'm just like, why? Like, I don't blame the patient. I'm not judging them, but it's, you know, because they're just, you know, they go in asking for something and the provider should guide them appropriately.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, fillers, when done well, whether it's lips or the face, should be something more subtle and beautiful, not something that just changes the identity of the patient.
Right.
I feel that to my core.
Yeah.
I'll be seeing so many girls just overdo it. It's like, you already had great voluptuous lips, and then it's like, damn, you didn't have to go double XL with it, you know? I mean, shit.
Well, the thing is, I will tell you, and you can get the questions, one thing I would say is, one thing that's hard with my job is I recognize that on one hand, I'm perpetrating insecurities by doing what I do. On the other hand, I'm trying to not do that.
Where's that moral balance? Like,
it's tough. Everyone, it's difficult. You know, it's what I tell people is, you know, my job is to rein them in sometimes. I have to know, you know, and everyone, it's professional discretion, but it's tricky. Like, you know, you're not trying to feed an insecurity. What I tell people is this: vanity is what you do for other people. Ideally, plastic surgery is what you're doing for yourself. So if you're doing this to appease societal standards or what someone else thinks is pretty or what you're trying to impress someone else, you're not doing it for the right reasons. So, and you can pick that out when you talk to someone. So
you can tell what their rationale behind it is.
A little bit.
No, for sure. And I mean, like, we always, like, you know, with our fans, it's like, you know, we want to preach the message, like, you fucking, whatever your body type is, like, you know, you're great. Like, fucking, you know, obviously try to be as healthy as possible. Like, you know, we don't want to promote, like, bad habits. But at the end of the day, like, I can only imagine as a plastic surgeon where that, like, moral conflict might come in. Because it's like...
Yeah, I have a stupid job. I deliver a service that nobody needs. My job is selective.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, do they need it? It's like they might feel like they need it. At the end of the day, you're making them more secure in themselves. So I think you should look at it as
nobody needs what I do. You know? Nobody needs what I do. Not a single patient that I've operated on needed that.
Of course.
They want it for themselves and it helps them live their fullest life. And that's great. And so if I can enhance their quality of life,
the confidence
I'm all
boost,
about that. Yeah. But it's not a need thing.
Oh, totally. Right.
And the reason that's important is because I'm never going to tell them what they should do. If you start to think of it in terms of need, then you're like, oh, while you're here, you should do this or that or the other. And I'll never do that because that's when you're starting to think of things they need.
Of course, yeah.
It's only about what they want. So I just listen to what they want and I talk about those areas.
That's a good mindset to have because I feel like that alleviates pressure on you.
Yeah,
it's like, you know, it's on the patient at the end of the day, you know.
All right.
Okay, so as you guys know,
from Evelyn.
Okay. I was gonna
Johnson loves his intro.
I thought he already started, so I didn't know if you're...
I mean, every week,
he loves introing.
He does. Give me the intro.
Go ahead, Johnson.
As you guys know, every week we like to take fan submitted questions, and we call the segment "Ask the Cast." Obviously, if we have a guest on, we want to cater it towards them. So we told you guys we were having Dr. Galanis on, and now we're taking some questions for him. And
that was a good intro.
Yeah, there's some great ones in here that I've seen. Do you have one off gate? You're reading one.
I do. I was excited. From Evelyn. What's the most dangerous surgery that you've ever performed on someone?
Most dangerous surgery? Well, it would be before I did plastics, when I did general surgery. And so when I did general surgery, incorporates transplant, trauma, cardiothoracic, cancer surgery, head and neck surgery, endocrine surgery, a lot of different surgeries. So, you know, when you're talking about trauma surgery, it's not that it's a dangerous surgery. They're coming in already in extremis. We call it extremis. So I did, when I was in Baltimore, because Johns Hopkins is in Baltimore City, 50% of trauma in the ER is penetrating trauma. It's gunshot and knife wounds. Very violent city.
Jesus.
So you'd see a lot of gunshots. And so taking those people to the operating room, they're dead unless you do something. So that's a dangerous operation in the sense of, you know, the definition to me of danger is, is a patient going to die? And you know, a lot of times you lose them, and you knew when it was going to happen. We'd have a pager, and it would give us a little bit of heads up of what it was. And it was called Bravo trauma. Was when the surgery was needed to be there when they got there. And when it was a Bravo trauma, we ran the traumas. The ER doctors didn't. It was at that point it was a surgical thing.
Damn.
And it would say GSW, and it would either say GSW or say GSW to head.
Oh, gunshot wound. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you saw GSW to head, you're kind of like, although you would be surprised sometimes that people would survive, but it was like, but then you'd have people that, you know, gunshot wounds to the abdomen. I remember when we had a guy who got shot, and he had multiple shots to the liver, and that's a bad organ to hit with a gun because it bleeds and bleeds and bleeds, and it's really, really hard to stop. And so those are the ones who are just like, it's heroic measures. You're just trying to, and then there's times where the ultimate heroic measure, I'll tell you this, was when there's indications to crack a chest open in the ER. You don't even get up to the surgery. You don't even get to the OR. You actually open up the chest in the ER to do things to the heart, to clamp vessels, to try to save someone.
It's that time sensitive. It's
yeah. And so the one that sticks to me was I'll never forget this one. It was a 9-year-old girl.
Oh,
and she had chased a ball into the street and got run over by a car. And so she came in, and there's certain indications, and I don't know if this is current, but indications where if they lost vitals on the way to the hospital, that was an indication for something like opening up a chest, where you literally make an incision, put a rib spreader, open the ribs. And you do that because if they're hemorrhaging, you're trying to stop the hemorrhage by clamping vessels. So you clamp the vessel right below the heart, and you can even massage the heart.
Ooh.
And
why do you massage the heart? Just like keep it going?
Keep the blood flow.
Yeah, keep blood flow going. Because they've lost vitals. So you're trying to really, you know. And the chance of success of something like that is small. Mm-hmm. I mean, that girl died. But that was, you know, those kind of things stick out to me as like those moments where it's like you really get desensitized to seeing things. But I remember that one because my niece was that age at that time.
Wow, so it just really hit home.
I was like, I felt that in that moment that this could be my niece, and just thinking about my sister and her husband, and that was their kid, and we're sitting there, you know, cutting her and ripping her chest open. It was wild.
Damn.
So
man.
those were intense. So when I think about that, I can't really compare something in the plastics world.
Of course.
Danger.
That was a great answer though. Like,
does that shit ever like keep you up at night? Like
no, I mean,
you've just seen so much of that shit. It's like you
just compartmentalize because you have to be able to take care of the next patient.
Of course.
There's been a couple times where there was someone that would hit me. And I can remember the singular times. That was one of them. I have other stories I could tell that were things that stuck with me for a while and still do. But at the end of the day, like you had to be able to just compartmentalize and put it to here and then just keep going.
Of course.
Wait, when someone comes in and they've lost vitals, like do you even take the time to like put drugs in them so they can't feel this shit, or are you just like going straight in there with knives?
So there's something called the ABCs: airway, breathing, circulation. So it's in that order. So the first thing you have to do is secure an airway. By the time they get to the ER, they already have one. An airway is they've already put a breathing tube in.
Okay.
And then breathing means, are you circulating air? So you got the tube in, that's airway. Now are you circulating air? Are you giving them air? So that's breathing. Circulation is the next part. So that's where they're cutting the chest cobes, things like that. So there's specific things you do to kind of follow each of these steps that makes it very systematic. So there's not a lot of thinking involved. You just work the algorithm.
Okay.
You guys want to hear something interesting? I'll tell you something.
Yes.
You want to hear? I know you get back to the questions. 2 things that movies and television always get wrong.
Okay.
It's hilarious to me. When people get shot, we don't go after the bullet. You know, in the movies, they like
remove
the bullet out.
First.
Right.
We never touch the bullet. Leave the bullet alone.
Really?
People can walk around with a bullet in them. It's not the bullet. It's the damage that the bullets caused.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the things that the bullet did that you got to fix. You don't go chasing after the bullet. And it's not like you pull the bullet out and be like, and drop it in a metal cup and be like,
Exactly.
the metal cup.
Yeah. They can breathe again. Like.
Yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing is, so you look at a monitor and you see that flat line.
Yeah.
You never shock a flat line. You know, they do the clear.
Yeah. You
never do that. So you shock someone when they have a rhythm, but it's irregular.
Okay.
But in the movies, it's more dramatic. Right. Flat line, clear.
So once they flatline, it's done.
No, you push drugs and you do CPR.
Okay.
So you'll inject
drugs?
epi, vasopressin, different drugs,
like adrenaline type
and you'll ventilate them and you'll do chest compressions, but you don't.
But
shock
never the
them.
shock.
No, the shock doesn't wake the heart up. What the shock is meant to do is shock it back to a normal rhythm.
Okay.
So it's working, but it's in a funky rhythm.
What's up, Hollywood? Why are you telling these lies?
It's dramatic. And by the way, all these shows have doctor like people there, but they just don't care. They're just because it's just how
dramatic effect.
But that's some movies I'm always like,
that's interesting.
That's wild as fuck.
They always drop it in the middle.
Doctor shows are the worst, bro. I can't watch them. They're all unrealistic. The only show I ever saw that was actually kind of realistic from a satire sense was Scrubs.
I was remember that show?
Scrubs. Yeah.
George
Clooney.
That's ER.
I saw Donald Faison recently.
That's crazy because we had a question about Scrubs.
Scrubs, legendary.
Scrubs is that show actually was very accurate.
Really,
it's really kind of how things worked in the hospital. And how
that's
people
exciting because that show's legendary.
Yeah, that show's great.
Well, someone said actually. Let me see what this question is. Oh no, that's Grey's Anatomy. They asked about Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, fuck
that one.
Dude, I mean, it's like, I can't. Like, it's so ridiculous.
That's wild though. The more you know, I've like learned a lot today.
So at UCLA, there was they had someone that worked there that the fellow would always go guest star in an episode of Grey's. So it was like a thing. But that show is just garbage. I would get in fights with not fights, but one of my friends was super passionate about it. And I'm like, that show is total bullshit. Nothing in that show is actually how it is.
Not even the drama's real.
No, it's so fabricated and just we could do an entire episode on that show. I don't know.
You know something funny? I used to want to be like an orthopedic surgeon. I wanted to live in Vail, and then I realized like blood and shit makes me faint. Like I can't do needles. I can't get shots. I walked out of an ER. I fainted once. And like even hospital shows, I can't watch hospital shows because like even seeing a fake operation like makes me nauseous as fuck. I don't know
it was you and Baker who would always be bitching about when I would put like gory stuff on. So I stopped putting gory stuff on my stories. Because
he would post like
sometimes it for you.
Though. Sometimes
I know, but I'm watching.
But I would hear that and be like, okay, if a lot of people are turned off, but a lot of people love that stuff. They really do. But
people love it.
Yeah, but like they follow like
I love it. I think it's fascinating.
Nature's Metal or whatever that account is.
I love that.
I hate that shit. I don't know how you guys watch it.
It's so intriguing.
The ones that fucked me up were the like mommy makeovers where you would
cut open
pull the shit up and it's literally pizza
sauce. The thing that
sauce.
still gets me cool. I can't watch sports injuries.
It's like cheese.
Really?
Oh, like when
someone's
leg snaps, like Conor
dude,
McGregor.
I can't watch it like that stuff. I can see them after. Like I would see people in the trauma bay come in, bones sticking out. That doesn't bother me. Jesus. But seeing it happen, like in the moment, like when they do the replay and they're like, if you don't want to watch this, I'm like, I don't fucking.
Like Kevin Ware from Louisville. You remember that one?
Well, how about or more topical? My world champion Milwaukee Bucks. When Giannis, when I thought he was done.
I'm sick about that. I'm a Phoenix Suns fan. So sorry. Hey, that was a hell of a fucking.
It was.
You a Milwaukee cat?
I'm the biggest Giannis fan though.
I'm a Wisconsin fan.
I couldn't hate it all.
Did you ever go to Summerfest like growing up and stuff?
Oh yeah, sure.
That's me and G play there.
Yeah,
you did? Oh man, dude, high school we would go there every summer. We'd live.
It was a fun ass festival,
dude. That festival was. I mean, people like every city, all these like smaller cities like Milwaukee or whatever. I'm sure like some cities in Nebraska have this.
Yeah,
they have these things that most people don't know about.
Nobody knows.
But it's like then you go there and you're like, holy shit, this is a big deal. Like Summerfest had over 1 million people attending those things.
Oh, huge. And every artist in the industry knows about.
Oh yeah.
Summerfest.
So, but it's like anyone outside of that would be like Milwaukee, whatever.
Like people hear about Omaha, they have no idea the College World Series is there. We got like the fattest zoo in America, but like you don't flex it too much.
We keep those close.
But yeah, when Giannis bent the leg, I was like,
the fattest zoo.
I couldn't watch it.
All right, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for being loyal supporters. Even if you're not loyal and you're really fickle and wishy-washy, we don't care. As long as you're here sometimes.
Yeah,
correct.
Thanks for listening.
You're awesome. We love you guys. We'll see you soon. We hope you have a blessed week. All right.
Appreciate y'all.
You were sitting in your bed, had nothing to do, but little did you know there were 4 dudes who like talking shit while sipping their brews. Just make sure your parents don't walk in the